girls, not area code. These black girls need to be in the shows. Be on the runways, not just billboards. On top of that, I wanna see when your team. Look at your crown, natural, relax to the Jericho. On time, soft and sheen. Where black girl magic is sometimes blue. Man broke a hairband or two. Raise my voice, she gonna say that I'm angry. Kiss my teeth, and now you say that I'm hood. Kid at 16, you say it's my destiny. Driving a range, you think I'm up to no good. Give us a break and let us breathe, man. Give me a chance, let's achieve, fam. And I know that my hair looks a bit different today, so don't touch my hair.
All right, that is the opening. So for every podcast, we're going to start off with sharing some of our purest, most innocent memories that we had from our childhood. Just trying to remember a time that we were happy and we felt joy, because Black stories and lives are oftentimes drenched in tragedy by media and just the general experiences of the Black, population in America. So we want to start off our podcast with positivity and share joy and light stories with everyone. So I will open it up to my co-host, Maty and Kylie, to share their stories.
I guess that's me. It's a podcast, so you can't see us. So I'm Kylie. Demi was just talking if she didn't introduce herself. My story is, y'all, we had some technical difficulties and I forgot my story during those difficulties.
I was gonna say, don't worry about it.
No, because I know that we've had joy in our lives. You just gotta find it. But I think my story was about middle school. So they would do these like award shows, kind of like, not awards, but like it's very much the concept of like, oh, you did a good job this school year, so like here's some certificates. But they like, I don't know how they pull this off every year, but they like trick the 7th grade into thinking that it's the 8th grade's award ceremony, but then it's actually ours. And like they have our parents come and like surprise us. And I think it's cool because like when you know a award ceremony is coming up, you like are really anxious about like if you're gonna get an award, because like you feel that pressure. And then like I was at a public school where like there were some Black kids, but like mostly white kids. So like you feel the pressure to like stand out. And it's cool when like you like just get to be present, I think, and like not be worried about if you're gonna get something. And then you get there and you're like, oh shit, I got an award. And my mom's here. You're like, what's going on? But it's nice.
It's like, I think that's the sweetest thing ever, just because then they don't make you feel so much pressure. You're thinking about it. You're like, oh, my parents even gonna come, and you don't have to worry about that moment.
That's the real stress. Are my parents even gonna be here? Like, are they gonna be at work?
Exactly. Right, so hello, it's Maty, and I am also a co-host. So my story is just about my summer days with my cousins and my friends, and just swimming in my pool pretty much, and like pretty much playing mermaid all day. So that was like the one thing I did every day. And I just think that just being in the sun and just feeling that warmth and going back inside the house and like drinking juice or something was like one of the most sweetest like moments I had in my lives, because I always think back at it and I remember how much fun I was always having, like always laughing. So it's like one of the best moments I think about still that summer.
That's so cute.
I was gonna say, that's so sweet. And that's a perfect segue into just the overarching topic of our podcast. This is the episode 1 of BLEUPHORIA, the Black Joy podcast. And the topic and theme for episode 1 is all about earning joy and the guilt of potentially falling short of Black excellence. So we're going to unpack the pressure Black women often face in society to strive for Black excellence and perfection. And when we fall short of that, why we feel like we don't deserve happiness. And we're going to analyze the role of social media in our discussion, talking about Instagram and TikTok and everything like that, and what that can mean for not just empowering, but also making you sometimes feel like you're not good enough. And we're going to talk about feeling like we have to set certain standards of Black excellence and rising to those standards, and the psychosocial pressure that that puts on Black women. And we're also just going to conclude the episode with some personal anecdotes that kind of unpack our own experiences as three Black women in higher education attending a predominantly white institution in Philly, also the corporate world, and our role in scientific research as Black women as well. And we're just going to investigate why we as Black women often feel like we have to suffer to earn joy. So the first kind of opening segment of this is going to be like striving for success. How do we qualify success in a white-dominated capitalist society? So I'll send it over to my co-host just to kind of hear their thoughts on this and what it means for them in terms of trying to be successful as Black women in all of these different facets of society that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
sorry.
it's okay.
I
Yeah,
was gonna ask a
so go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, what do you mean by qualify? Like determine or like measure?
Yeah, like how we
Okay.
measure success and how we kind of um, define it in terms of, because of the fact that we're in this white dominated capitalist society as Black women. Like, what does success look like for us personally, but then also like in comparison to like the larger structure that we have to place ourselves in.
Okay. All right, Maty, go ahead. I cut you off enough.
I was just gonna say, like, I find success in like going into a interview, and from the beginning of the interview till the end, the people who are interviewing me are Black women. That just brings me this kind of comfort, just because I know, like, if I get this job here, it's not just because I'm going to be a diversity quota. It's because these people actually saw me for who I am and believe that I'm gonna be making an impact in this company. So that feels like a success to me.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because I just had like one of my first interviews and it was with a Black woman, and the executive director of the company is also a Black woman. And like that's crazy. Like you don't
Yes.
like that has never happened to me in my life before. And I think that was like a collective success moment. Like it was like I appreciate seeing you in this space, but also like a collective recognition of like how and what it takes to get to those spaces, because it's always like the twice as hard to get half as much they have. Like I think that's like a big um like preemptive measure of Black success. Like we're taught that from when, like, I don't know, I feel like just from the start, like our parents kind of like ingrained that in us. And I think there's a special kind of pressure that comes with like, not special, but like a distinct kind of pressure that comes from constantly being in predominantly white spaces where you're constantly reminded that like you're not like your peers
Yep.
from one way or another.
No, 100%. Yeah. I was gonna say that's like the prevailing I guess thought when you look at a lot of research studies. I know that one quote is from a study from like it was like 2022. They said to cope with the experiences of gendered racism, Black women have to engage in identity shifting, which is kind of just like the larger scope of like, I guess, code switching, to just like feel comfortable in all these like predominantly white environments. And so it's really cool to hear that for both of you, like in interviews, that there were Black women present, because I feel like that's so rare.
Yeah,
Sometimes
definitely.
you'll talk to them like in the beginning, but then like they disappear when you actually like enter into this, and you're like, where did you go?
No, it's like, it's sad when that happens, just because like, oh, so the diversity that they showed me was just for show. At that point, like, it feels like it was just for show, just so that they can seem like a diverse company. So being able to actually see that like throughout the entire company, and it doesn't feel like forced, it just feels like so natural, is when I feel like like that you're in a company that actually is hiring people for who they are and not just for what they are. That makes sense.
And I think too, like you said, Maty, when that diversity is like carried up, like it removes a lot of the forced like identity shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And like that is like, I can't imagine working in a space where like I don't have to code switch. And then like I can't imagine what my productivity or like my accomplishment would look like if I wasn't exhausted from like being someone else. Like at my previous employer, who I won't name because I feel like that can get you sued in a podcast. But at my previous employer, it was very much like, I don't want to talk to you. Like I'm not your friend. Like I'm just here to get this work done and go. And I feel like when you have that attitude, like it kind of then trickles down to like for real, I don't even want to do this work. Like I
Yeah.
just want to get paid and go. I'm here to get the bare minimum done so I can leave as quickly as possible so that I don't have to interact with you or deal with your microaggressions or talk to you about your trip to the shore or like like I don't want to talk to you about your family's house in Cape Cod. Like I don't
Not the shore.
I don't
Cod.
it's just so
They
like
stay going to the shore
all the time.
Every
And
day.
it's so insensitive too. It's like the code switching goes beyond the boundaries of professionalism and like it's not just like in a workspace, but it's like then you're trying to be social with me in this workspace, but
Mm-hmm.
social about things that I don't relate to. Like I don't go to
Yes.
Cape Cod every week. I'm sorry, like I
Yes,
can't
yes, yes.
relate.
It's
my
like
family doesn't have a second house. Like I'm sorry.
exactly. We don't do that. We don't go skiing every other weekend in the
Exactly. I don't
winter.
go
Like
visit my mom in the Poconos. Like I don't
exactly. Like it's such a distinct. Like it's such a clear line between our experiences and their experiences, and it's something that they just can't wrap their minds around. Like they don't understand that not everybody has the same childhood. Not everybody grows up in the same neighborhood. So they tell you about experiences that you have never had, and they just expect you to understand. And you just have to act like you do, because what are you gonna say? No, because they're gonna be like, what? Why don't you understand that? Yeah.
It's like it's the identity shifting is very much forced assimilation, just in
Mm-hmm.
a different frame. And it's like constantly being in mode out of fight or flight because you're constantly like preparing yourself to deal with whiteness all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%. It's just like not feeling comfortable in those spaces at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of is a perfect segue into the next part because it's like why our success in these spaces doesn't always equate to joy or happiness or health. Because it's like even when you're pulling really good numbers, even when you're doing all of your work well and you're getting all of your accolades, if you do get your accolades in those spaces, it's like you're not necessarily comfortable because it's like that frequent othering that you're having to face in these academic and professional spaces. And I feel like it's just gotten worse with COVID-19 because we've all had to kind of adjust our work environments and working from home. So I know that a lot of people are talking about that feeling of isolation. So it's almost that double isolation for Black women because you already don't feel comfortable in those spaces. Um, so yeah, I guess you could share just like how you feel about that, like how you are two really successful grad students, but sometimes those successes aren't always necessarily things that make you feel happy.
Sorry, my internet cut out. Could you repeat that just quickly?
Yeah, of course. Just like the fact that as grad students, you're doing really well. I know from, seeing that firsthand, but how those successes don't always equate to you being happy because of the environments that you're in.
Yeah. So I feel like because I'm a maternal and child health minor, not a major, with Demi, I feel like we see so much research and just like about Black women and how much they're struggling in maternal health that it becomes like overbearing at one point, because we see all this research pretty much just telling us that Black women are already at a disadvantage from like predetermined, like they're going to be failing in health and everything. So us being in public health and seeing those results and knowing that honestly there's not much we can really do right now ourselves, it feels like a big burden honestly, and it makes you wonder like what am I really achieving in this career besides just going into work and probably doing research for like a company that's probably not going to get far, which is very pessimistic, but sorry.
No, I would say it's realistic. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head with that. So it's understandable, especially like you said, as maternal child health minors. Sometimes it can be really depressing having to continuously see the maternal mortality research studies and all these classes. I'm like, I'm good. Like I know, like
Mhm.
the likelihood of me dying if I want to have a child, it's high.
Yeah.
So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. But
Yeah, it's like thank you for the reminder. And they're like, talk about why this is an issue. It's like as a black woman, can I just like be here? And like you're like, you're good.
Oh my God, can we pause on the talk about why this is an issue? I that when Drexel wrote up its diversity curriculum, that was the first thing they wrote. I'm like, yo, I think there needs to be some acknowledgement for our diversity curriculums that it's like this curriculum is for a white person. You made this for a white person. White people need to talk about why this is an issue. I don't need to talk about why Black maternal mortality is an issue because I have a fear of experiencing it. It is an issue because it makes me not want to have kids. Y'all need to talk about why it's an issue. I understand it. I get it. I know the issue. You're the ones trying to figure this out, not me. And it makes me feel like I'm wasting my time because you're forcing me to get this degree that's about things that I'm experiencing, not expanding my mind.
It is so, and that's what makes me sad. It's like, because it's like, oh, they did, like, they're like, oh, well, you did a great job writing about this. It's like, yeah, no, no, duh, I did a great job writing about it. Like, that's why I'm not happy sometimes in these classes. I'm like, it is, it's so easy, so you should be happy because you're like, oh, this is so easy to write about because it's but it's like, no, it actually is really depressing, and it really makes me so disconnected from my degree and this discipline, and it's really, it's hard. It's hard.
exactly. It is hard because sometimes with like how Kylie was mentioning it's made for white students. Like when you were in professor class and he asked us, oh, has anybody had a conversation that made you feel comfortable about race? I was just sitting there like, no way. You just asked 20-some-year-old students, did you ever had a feeling about, oh, did you ever feel uncomfortable talking about race when there's only what, 3 Black students in this entire classroom? And people actually raised their hands. And I was like, okay, you don't, yeah, you can be truthful. I know we're definitely not being truthful. I know you feel uncomfortable talking about this competition right now. So, and then somebody else said, oh, I said, oh, I don't really see the point in me talking about this because I'm actually living through the situation myself. And me learning more about it isn't going to be really a huge difference from what I've lived. And they were like, well, you never know. You can always learn something new. I'm like, about racism I faced myself, or what? What am I gonna learn more about racism?
um Demi, wait, I'm sorry again. We done got sidetracked. It was a question I was supposed to answer.
No, you guys answered the question because it's true. It's like we're sitting in these classes, we're passing these classes. I know y'all are doing very well, getting, certain internships or jobs because of it. But it's like in these spaces, you're not necessarily happy because a lot of the times you're either not fulfilled, you're made to be othered, you're uncomfortable. You recognize the fact that there are people who are your age who are in vastly different places in their awareness of race and what it means to like talk about it in society and live with it. So, yeah, I mean, just all of it. You guys are really touching on it, and I think it feeds into why Black women and their burnout, their, mental health is a serious public health issue. And it's ironic because we're in these public health classes and we're ultimately perpetuating this issue. So yeah, it's just so weird, and I think that's part of the reason why we're in these spaces and we're not necessarily earning that joy that we deserve. We're not necessarily feeling happy 100% of the time, and why we're ultimately feeling disconnected a lot from all of it, the research, the academics, the corporate world, all of it. So yeah.
I think a part of the exhaustion too is like and I want to be correct in how I say this, but like I wonder if like Black people stopped, like if Black people stopped and were just like, I'm done, I'm not doing this work anymore. I don't want to keep pushing the line forward. That's not my job. Like, that's yours. I wonder if the job would continue, right? Like, I wonder if there would be enough others to continue the job, right? And it goes beyond the boundaries of like identifying as a Black woman, but I don't see the job continuing unless we're doing it. And then it's exhausting because then it's like, well, I have to be doing this, right? Like I have to be doing this to like, if you want something to get done, you got to do it yourself, right? Like it's like we have to be doing this, and that is crazy to still be in a space where it's like I'm sitting in my classes and I'm looking at my peers and I'm like, I don't really know if we on the same team right now. We might all be getting it. We might all be getting MPH, but we don't all feel the same way about human rights. It's evident. Those discussion boards are telling, okay?
Discussion boards, you could do a psyche.
It's like when we're in class and they ask a question and us three just look at each other. We're just like, the look, girl. I think we've had that look at least over 50 times. Just between just this year alone. It'd be like private messaging each other in Zoom. Like it's just very upsetting. It's not upsetting because I think we're so used to feeling othered that it becomes so natural to us that we are studied like this. We're basically being studied in each class. I feel like they look for our reaction to what before they answer the question, they'll let us answer so they can pretty much summarize our answer and just give it and feed it back to us. I feel like.
Yeah, and I see that in terms of the way that also some professors respond as well, which is interesting. I'm like y'all could be like my parents, you're at your big age, but that's fine. That's another story. But it's perfect because what you guys were talking about, especially Kylie, when you mentioned that feeling like that's not my job, it kind of speaks to the concept of the generational sacrifices and trauma that we inherently feel either we naturally take on. I think that's something that we naturally take on, and then also sometimes that we feel like we have to actively take on as well, and what that means for Black mental health. I think it's this desire to do more, to do better, to be better. And it kind of also touches on like Instagram. We see these Instagram pages dedicated to the Black woman hustle or Black female excellence or like motivation and inspiration, all that stuff. And it's empowering, but it can also reinforce like these harmful concepts where it's like we're in these classes and we feel like we have to, be not even a voice of reason, but just kind of be the one who's maybe even just the only one speaking sense because no one else really knows what they're talking about because they don't have that lived experience.
I was about to say a voice of common sense. We don't even talk about reason at this point.
And you know what I'm tired of? Having to be the strong Black women. Can we just be fragile for once? Do we always have to suffer? I don't get it. Like, please,
gotta put a plug in there. If you want to hear us talk about the strong Black woman myth, you got to tune in to episode 4.
Listen, I was going to say, we're going to go even further and it's going to be so nice because, we talk like, I feel like we rely on that so heavily. And I feel like social media, I don't mean to like damn it, 'cause it's not bad. It can be really great, but it can really perpetuate that. And it can really make you just feel like you're not good enough. So you're like, oh, I have to do more. Like I have to do more work. I have to keep going. So you feel like you can't rest or relax. So yeah, I don't know how y'all feel about that.
I think Demi too, when you mentioned the generational sacrifices, like I listened to another podcast. It's actually like 3 or 4 Black girls, and they were talking about like why we expect Black women to mother us and how society as a whole does it. Like it's like so distinct from the strong Black woman because it's like, okay, I want you to be strong, but then I want you to be strong from like 8 to 5 while you're at work or while we're protesting or while we're doing this. But then also, I want you to take care of me and I want you to teach me about racism and I want you to tell me how you feel and how this works. And it's like, that's not my job either. Like, I'm not here to take care of you, regardless of what color you are, what color, what gender. And unless you 18 or below, I'm not, first of all, I'm nobody's mom. Okay.
Exactly.
I have no kids. But I'm damn sure not here to teach my peers to tell you how I like that. Don't
That's what
ask
I'm
me how I
saying.
feel in class.
Yeah.
Exactly. I did not give birth. I don't have my teaching license. I'm not here to do any of it.
I just want to be present and learn like everybody else is learning. Like, please just like leave me be. We're really struggling, aren't we? Through this classes, but okay. It's gonna be a
But
silver lining.
I think that's a point too, Maty. Like you said, we're struggling in these classes, and I can only count 2 classes that have taught me something beyond the black and white divide, right? Like at this point, I'm like, damn it, there are other races in the world. Can we talk about something else?
Oh my God.
Can we talk about the concentration camps right now? Like, can we talk
Yes,
about the
please.
religious persecution? All we can talk about is health
Health
disparities might
disparities
have to go on my list of words I don't want to hear anymore.
I love health
and
disparities.
target. I'm over it, y'all. Over these classes. I just need for them to stop treating us like an anomaly. Like I get there's only 4 of us in this entire major, but please just let us be.
And it's rough because in our department specifically, I'm like, I wish I was an epi person because like there are more black women in epi, but even the black women in epi, a lot of them like are in research positions. They're not in teaching positions, which sucks. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't blame you because like I personally, I'd be like, let me just sit to the side and do my research and mind my business because I'm like sometimes like it's a lot. Um, but yeah, it is rough. It's that feeling of just like being uncomfortable in a space that's meant to be for you, that you actively paid to enter into. So, and the fact that research even showed, I was so happy that I found this because I was really hoping that there would be research backing this up, but it said that the like greater endorsement of this whole strong Black woman archetype has actually been found to be associated with higher levels of uh, general social media use and then also adverse mental health and lower self-esteem. So it just goes to show it's like, oh, y'all thought you were really trying to, create this like helpful image, but no, it's gotten to the point where it's doing the exact opposite of what you wanted to do.
It's not helpful. It's just a burden.
Yeah, it's too
Because now
much to
you
put on
feel like you
people.
have to push yourself to do more than you actually could, like physically and mentally. You're putting yourself in a space that you're obviously not happy. You're not happy. You're not happy. You're not healthy, and you're very bitter about everything that's happening around you at one point because you don't want to be in this space anymore. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what happens when you don't reach that standard? Like, what happens when you didn't get a full ride to every Ivy League in the country? Because that's all they put on the news. Ex-Black kid from Philadelphia got 17 full rides to all the Ivies.
And they're like 15. It's like, thank
Yeah.
you.
What happens when you don't, what happens when you're not picture perfect for, I think we're going to run into defamation. So I'll just say PWIs. um, Billboard. What happens when that's not you? Like, I don't know. I think it's like this it's the crabs in the barrel thing, right? It's like it's literally we're still being pinned against each other for resources, but now you get this gender intersection and it's like, we're competing for school and then there's this competition to like not just be like a regular woman. It's like, well, I gotta run a business and be in school and have an LLC and do this and do that. And I'm like, I like cleaning. Like, just trying to chill most days. I don't know. And like you said, I think you said the word endorsement. Like it's endorsed by every single person around us from the moment they realize we are capable of something. It's like, oh, you capable of this one thing? Well, you can also do these 10. You can do these 10, and why don't you try this other one too?
Yes. And I don't think anything has ever made me feel more cognizant of that as to when you're sitting and you're talking to people that are maybe like in similar programs as you, and you look at their history, like getting into, and I'm like, huh, so I didn't need to break my back. So I didn't need to be 20, at 1 a.m. sobbing because I'm trying to, get everything together and be this perfect human being and maintain this perfect image. Because it's like you said, like the minute you enter into that space of like this ideal, they're like, oh, keep going. In fact, do more, do double, triple that.
Yeah, and like now, like seeing my little sister, she's like in high school, her junior year, and your junior year is the year that everybody's down your neck. Oh, you see, this thing has determined your life. First of all, why are you telling 16 and 17-year-old kids that this is the year that determines their life? The SATs are not that serious. Let's be honest. Like we all got into what school we wanted to do, right? Like I tell my sister that all the time. I'm like, I did not do that well, and look at me. I'm doing well, am I not? Like you don't gotta take it that serious. And it's just it's sad to see these kids just feel so forced, especially black young women, because they are I feel like they're even more forced to feel that they have to succeed in everything, sports, school, and in their social life as well. It's very sad.
It's it's robbing them of, you know what, their joy.
Yes,
You can't enjoy being a sports team because you got to be the best. You can't enjoy learning math because you got to be in this competition.
Exactly. And
Meanwhile, somebody's son named Todd gets to spend 10 years figuring his life out, then goes to college if he feels like it, and still gets a higher paying job. If one more job offers me sub 50, I'm going to scream. I'm going to scream.
I'll
Matter of
actually
fact,
scream.
50 is not enough. Sub 60,
It's
I'm going to
not.
scream. What?
They don't
You
care
want
about
to
us.
tell me how qualified I am? How much of an asset I am? And then say, here, $50,000 a year. But you're going to give Michael, who only went to community college and knows your uncle, 80? No.
that's what I, it's the way that I didn't even have the thought in my mind that I could have a job without going to grad school. I was like, no, there's no way I have to. And now I'm looking at these
It's
jobs, they
not
say
possible.
bachelor's degree,
Me
GED.
too. Oh my.
I say, I didn't even have even a glimmer in my eye. And that's what people told me too. They said, you won't even be able to. I was like, okay, you're right. Yeah, let me go.
Pressuring black women to feel like they have to be the best at everything. Then we could have just and you can't settle. Because if you settle, you're being told, oh, you're wasting your potential. It's just constant pressure. Like
And also,
Louisa says from Encanto.
yes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just the way that also gap years. Let's talk about gap years. I was like, you know what? Maybe after high school, I want to take a gap year. My parents said, a what? I said, maybe after undergrad, I'll take a gap year. My parents said, a what? And that also feeds into the generational because it's like, as a like, my parents. I think there's like so many different layers to the Black experience, but like them coming from Nigeria, like that also was another layer of pressure. So it's just like it's so multifaceted. And then they wonder why we're truly out here suffering and why Black women's mental health is a public health epidemic, not just in the US, but just it's across so many different countries.
Exactly.
It's really that race to like not be that person. It's like to not be the Black person that is not doing all these things, to not be the Black woman who doesn't have the degree or like isn't seen as valuable in the traditional like capitalist sense. And as you mentioned earlier, it's killing us. That is why it's a public
Quite
health
literally.
problem. It is literally killing us. It's killing us when we have kids. It's killing us in our sleep. It's killing us with no knock warrants. It's killing us when you expect us to take care of everybody. What? It's not just, don't empower me no more. Let me go to sleep. You know why? Because when you don't sleep, your body starts breaking down.
They're like, we had no idea that she felt this way. We had no idea that things were this bad. We had no idea that her health was, going down this. It's like, now what did you expect? Y'all doing all these research studies, getting that NIH funding, and then you're like, oh, y'all have problems? Y'all have problems? Okay.
And these studies are useless because they're just using them for what? To just teach in class and then not do anything about it. Like, you're researching us, but then what? You're just gonna let us struggle anyway. So why even waste our time by asking us questions if you're not gonna do anything to solve my mental health, my burdens? Like, come on now.
Yeah, I agree with Maty. I agree with both of you, but we really need to get out of this research zone. In the next 10 years, I need this research to start turning into something tangible, guys. How long are we gonna talk about the same things? How long are we gonna research the same things? How long?
Exactly. Useless.
Truly. And I'm over writing policy briefs about it. I'm over it. And it's not even like we're doing anything innovative. Like, stop asking me to write a policy brief about, the social determinants of health and health disparities in Philadelphia County. I'm not, y'all already know everything. Y'all already know it. Like, stop it. Stop it.
It's part of the reason why you got a new health commissioner, but that's another. Anyways, how do we fix this?
No, it's sorry. Let me get to the last section before we get caught up. So we're just gonna talk about why joy does not have to be earned. I thought it was the beautiful quote. It says, "A Black feminist consciousness not only influences Black women's experiences with mental illness, but also provides a reservoir for which Black women learn to cope, manage, and seek help for these issues." So I think that's what we're all trying to touch on right now in this episode. That we deserve the space and the support to actually not be perfect for a second, and to breathe, to take it easy, to not be that strong Black woman that everyone says that we should be or need to be. And basically, that we don't have to submit our blood, sweat, and tears to achieve a life filled with joy. But yeah, y'all should touch on that.
I love that because we really don't. And I feel like there's been moments in my life where something happened and I reacted in a way that anybody else would react. And the first thing that was said was, "Oh, I didn't know that would hurt you," or "I didn't know that kind of saying would make you cry." I'm like, well, you just told me like the worst thing possible. So what you think for a second, wouldn't that hurt you? Am I not just human? Like, I'm not the strong Black woman that you've created in your mind. I'm 8 at that point. I was 18. I'm 18 years old, fresh out of high school. Just let me be a person. Please, just let me have joy. Let me be a Black girl and be myself. Let me be Maty. Like, let me be me.
You hit the head on the nail with that. I'm not this thing you created in your head. And I think within that quote, like the part about Black women's experiences with mental illness, I don't know, like, if Sarah's going through something, the world stops and pauses for Sarah. Okay, like, it's why you get like counseling programs in schools. It's why the country shuts down to look for one white girl. Like, it's like an indescribable difference between the two. And like, there's a lot of factors that go into it, just like public school funding and the resources that young Black girls get. But like, it's never really a conversation. Like, having anxiety is not a conversation. Philly is the most dangerous city in the world, right? In the country right now. Would you too not have anxiety if you were a 10-year-old Black girl going to a Philadelphia public school? Like, what, like Maty said, like, how would you feel? And then there's this weird, like, a certain Philadelphia official said that the city doesn't have a crime problem. And I think that stuck with me because his example with that was, well, I take my nieces out all the time. And it stuck with me because white parents and white adults never expect of their kids the same things they expect of Black kids. Like it's like, it's never like, there's no expectation that you would be in danger. There's no expectation that you would even deal with that danger because Sarah would never touch that danger. But there's an expectation that Black kids in inner cities don't have PTSD, that they don't need resources, that they don't gotta deal with it, that they grow up and become that strong Black woman archetype that people have ingrained in their heads. How would you grow up and become that if you didn't have no resources to not be falling apart? It makes no sense. Use your brain. It's this making sense. Can't be.
You just ate that up.
No, Maty, go. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say you ate that up, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna say. And that also, there's also there was this moment when after George Floyd was murdered, when his daughter was walking around with the protesters, and the news was putting it on like it was some big, like, look at this sweet little girl walking. Like, this sweet little girl just heard the news that her father has been murdered by a police officer in the system, and now she has to grow up with the fact that her father was quite literally murdered by a police officer. Like, they don't understand that it's not just like, oh, her father passed away. No, this girl has to now deal with the fact that her dad's gone. She saw what happened, everything. Like, it's not some hidden message. Like, she's gonna be going through a lot. She's 8 years. She was 8 years old at that time. She is not a strong Black woman. She is a little girl. Let this little girl grieve, please.
Let her take a nap. Let her go
Please,
play.
let her take a nap, please.
Did she eat lunch yet? Y'all got her out here protesting in the streets.
Like, come on, please, let's have some common sense. This is not sweet. This is not a cute little, like, a moment. Like, this is a sad situation that we're actually in. This is not something you should be putting on the news acting like it's some revolution. Like, what?
Yep. Black women should not have to be inspiration porn. Black women should not have to be martyrs. Black women should not have to be, your little comedic relief or your little, punching bag. They shouldn't have to be the person that you rely on and tell of all of your heavy information and stories and be your counselor. Black women should not have to be anything except just themselves, and they should be allowed to be happy alongside that. But I guess our journey towards that happiness it's a lot more complex than it is for other demographics and other groups. So that's where we are today.
But I think a simple step towards that journey is like, don't ask me to do nothing you wouldn't do yourself. Like, the moment you go to ask me to do something for you, don't. Just don't. Because if you are overwhelmed, why are you assuming that I am not? Don't ask me to do something you can't do. Or maybe before you ask me, ask if I have the capacity before you assume I have the capacity.
Yes. And one thing I feel like they love doing to Black women is coming up to them and just trauma dumping their entire life story on us. Like, we are also humans. We also have empathy. So you telling me about what happened to you I can't do anything about that. Especially if you're telling me something I really can't do anything about. Now I feel this burden. Now I'm stressed for you. I've said it 100 times, but I'm just human. Please just let me be me. I'm not a therapist. Get a therapist, babes, if you need somebody. That's not me.
And even if I am a therapist, I'm not on the clock. Like, I'm not getting paid. So
pay us for your trauma dumping.
Exactly. Also, do not come to me because I'm one of the 2 or 3 Black people and you're trying to work on some diversity project, and you're like, don't come to me. I'll feel bad because I'm like, who else is gonna talk about this? Because like, you know, no one else here is black, but don't come to me. I'm tired. I'm
I
tired.
wonder if they
I
talk to each
literally,
other. Talk to each other.
Chat.
yeah, I
Have a
don't
little
get it.
Why
conversation.
are you asking me how I feel after Trump got elected? How do you feel? You should feel some type of way too. I think people are
Exactly.
missing, like, when black people prosper, we all prosper. So if black people are down, we all should be down. That means you should also feel some type of way. Don't ask me how I
Mhm.
feel.
It's just like I said earlier. They want to see our reactions and to tell them how we feel so that they can make any type of move. And the move isn't going to be big. It's going to be a little post on Instagram saying Black Lives Matter.
Not the
Like,
black
that's not enough.
square.
The black
Yeah, the black square. They
square.
love that one.
They love the black
Some people,
square.
some people got mad when I posted on my Instagram story. I ain't doing much with that black square. I'm like, I'm doing a lot. I'm like, you're not.
Or not. I
Oh, and
remember.
stop expecting black celebrities to be the leader of these movements. They got
Yes.
shit to do. They got lives.
Literally, they have
Exactly.
lives. I feel so bad for them sometimes when they're like, people expect them to be like the voice of the movement. They are also just another person. Like, they are not the voice of anything right now. They're just themselves. They're also going through trauma. Like, they're experiencing the same situations right now that we're all experiencing. Like, come on now. Don't act daft. People are acting like they don't understand what's going on.
I love how you said don't act daft. That took me out.
That was an SAT word right
I was
there.
gonna say.
You know, I
And if
sneak
we
that in there.
decide to use our big words to do something, we should be able to make that decision without scrutiny, but not feel forced. I don't want to be forced.
Exactly.
Exactly. And don't assume like, oh, my biggest pet peeve is like, if don't assume that like as a black person I know everything about all black issues or I can speak to everything or I understand everything. Sir, we all have different research interests. We all have different just areas of interest in general. Like you know, don't ask me questions about Philly. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't live in Philly. I don't live
I
here.
grew up
I
in the
just go to
suburbs,
school
and I'm not saying that as a like anything. I just mean like shut, like leave me alone.
I still barely know what BIPOC stands for.
Yo, the way that they mix it up every single time, I'm like, do you know what
We
that
got new
means?
acronyms every time something goes wrong.
Do you? Oh my God, people be asking me my recommendations on certain things. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Be like, oh yeah, like what's your favorite takeout place in Philly? I don't
I
know.
love that question. Like McDonald's, girl. I don't
Right?
know.
Like leave me alone.
Not us having what is the word they love to use? Exotic palate. I eat the
Yes,
same food you eat.
Exactly. Or
girl.
they'll be like, oh, I just went to this Ethiopian place. Okay,
Good for
thank
you.
you. Like, why are you telling
Oh,
me that? They
being
assume that like,
African,
oh gosh, like just stuff like
it's
that. Like
actually
it's
hell.
just so weird. And that's why we deserve joy because we've been put through the ringer.
We have, and now a segue to Kylie to introduce our next episode.
Yes, stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to talk more about how the destruction starts way before these Black children become women, right? Stealing that joy, just like George Floyd's daughter. No joy. She don't got no rest, no peace. And we need more of that for Black children. We need Black children to be able to think of their Black joy stories quickly, not struggling the way we did this earlier in this episode.
We're really struggling.
So we're going to get more into that next episode. So stay tuned.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And remember, you deserve joy. You don't have to earn it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.